Shalom.
Bye,
Peace.
shalom.
Peace, everyone. Peace. We're back with another Sabbath after show, and we're going to be speaking about symbols today, just following up Chief Ya's live, but also sharing what we got from the last night's study session for those who may have caught that as well. So feel free to join for anybody that wants to join us. We will put the link in the chat for you.
Okay. I was just glad we got that intro kind of down packed this episode. So, um, yeah, I don't know. If there's some points you want to kind of start us off with on
Sure,
symbols.
sure. If you can do, I wanted to put the link in the chat just in case anybody wanted to join. But if you can do that, and I'll go ahead and just jump us off or start us off. Uh, Peace. Let me just pull up the chat here. Peace, everybody who was coming in. Peace. I will that your Sabbath is going well. We're going to be building on symbols today. And I'll just share what jumped out for me from last night's study session was that demonic forces, they oftentimes seek to pull the righteous, and I just wanted to like speak to that a little bit. Because I know that the purpose that Chief shared for why he was sharing with us, like the symbology of everything and being able to recognize that was so that our minds are not hijacked. So we're able to see what is going on and know how to make better decisions, based on what's actually happening. Because we know that what's presented is always something behind the curtain, behind the veil. So knowing that, it helps us to move more intelligently. So yeah, that part stood out to me. Like, okay, so the righteous is always being pulled. And then I came to Proverbs 6:19, which speaks about false witness that speaketh lies and soweth discord among brethren. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, I do think like some of the symbols that we see, like, what they want you to see, like what we see in media and things of that nature, is to like, they put a lie up there, but I think those who have the discernment of truth are supposed to be able to see, like, okay, what's really happening. But for those who are, are being lied to, I do like look at like how those different symbols, it caused like for us to like argue with one another at times, well, a lot of times. And there's so many examples of that. So
Yeah,
uh, I don't know if you want to start us off with one of those examples, but
yeah. As you were saying, like, there's so many things that's put in front of us to cause us to argue with each other. I guess one of the things I that came to mind first was political debate. Like a lot of
mm,
times. And sometimes it's maybe it's ignorance, but sometimes you'll hear like relatives, they may not know much about politics, but sometimes it's that lack of maybe information or knowledge, but they see the symbol, or there are certain words that a certain politician may use that it it maybe it triggers something in them. So, like if we a lot of times our families, melanated families, they may hear the word, okay, this is a Democrat, this is a Republican. So automatically, Democrat is symbolic of you're for the black people.
mhm,
Republican is you're for the white people, right? Or maybe you're for the rich. Democrat, you're for the poor. So sometimes it can be a debate, right? Surrounding like, oh, who's for us and who's not for us. And you may have an individual who has a little bit more insight or more information or knows a little bit more about politics, and they may be able to like argue or give a point that's intelligent, and the other person is like, but no, Democrat.
mhm,
They're
yeah,
still stuck on that symbol is something that just, and that's what they base their argument off of. But that was something that came to mind because I've seen it.
yeah. That actually ties into like also what I wanted to share too. Like sometimes well, Chief shared it too on the live. Like it's not like sometimes it's like it's the people who are the Illuminati. That's what he was saying. So sometimes it's our parents that
Mhm,
put certain symbols in front of us and say like, oh, you should follow this or you should do that.
mhm,
Sometimes it's friends, relatives, and I do think about like I'll use dress as an example. I can say that my father, he was like, y'all need to. His thing was like, y'all all need to wear dresses, skirts. I don't want to see no pants on you. And the way that that's symbolized in society is like, oh, like that doesn't define what a woman is. A woman can wear pants, all kind of crazy like opinions and thoughts. And so
Mhm.
I think about like some of the symbols that we may have been given that were actually good, maybe from our parents or our family or people who love us or knew the
Mhm.
right thing, and how that's been twisted. And those who speak it lies turn something good into something evil, and now it's sowing discord between brother and sister. Like now you have people arguing like whether they should wear pants or dress or whether that's feminine or masculine, you know.
Mhm.
So um, just looking at the symbology of what our dress represents,
Mhm.
to
As you as you're saying that, I think about like the example of like, I guess, feminism, when
mm-hmm,
feminism came into play, and certain images that were symbolic of femininity, like true femininity, or like the modern day housewife, right? And
mm-hmm,
then um, whereas you had this image that came in later when the feminist movement came in, and I cannot think of the name of it, but I'm sure somebody knows it. But it's the woman with the, like the strong arm or whatever, and that was supposed to represent like a woman being strong or her strength, or
yeah,
even just going out into the world and I want to work and I want to have a say so and I want to, So I think about families who have gotten into arguments about that, like um, maybe there was a way in which maybe the father wanted to raise their children, right, to be able to go and get married, like aspire for marriage,
right,
whereas that image of, well, that's not what a woman is, that's not what we do anymore, this is what we do, this feminist image that was supposed to be symbolic of the new age woman. Now that comes into play, and you got people arguing, saying, no, well, I don't want the child to be raised to be a housewife or to be a mother or to be,
right,
you know um that sort of thing. I want them to go out into the world and get a college degree and get a job and make an X amount of money, and so
right.
that's an example that came to mind.
Yeah, I think that's where like culture comes in at, because it's like that's why in our community we say like if you don't choose a culture, one will be chosen for you.
Right.
Well, that's cheeky guys words, but that's why that's said, because it's like, yeah, like a chosen culture has been chosen for those who like believe and follow that idea, like some of the ideas that you just spoke about, like, but for us it's like we have a standard, we have a whole doctrine, we have the Anu way, and it shares like, no, this is how we do things, this is how we dress, this is how we commune, and it has those laws for us. And even the 613 mitzvahs that we have too, like it tells us like, okay, this is the laws of the Most High Yah, and this is how you should move, and this is how you should live. um yeah, so we chose in our culture, so that we're very clear when we see certain symbols, and we're like, oh, we know what's right and what's like not for us, and what's happening, and be able to say, okay, well, we're gonna move like this based on our culture, or else, you know you just kind of get sucked in into something
I,
you may not want to be. But
I
I'm
like
with
that
it.
you tie that together and you say we're able to choose our culture,
Mhm.
um and I think about when Matthew was talking about anytime you try to get free, there's always someone that's trying to pull you back in. So it made me think of course, culture freedom, the fourth degree in our 120 studies. And just once you have that knowledge, that wisdom, that understanding, you're able to now live out a culture, So it's like, I guess it goes back to, like you said, something being chosen for you. But once you get that knowledge and you start applying it, then you have an understanding of why you do certain things. Then you have that culture, and now you have the freedom. And I think about so
Yeah.
many people who didn't get that opportunity or who chose not to, step out of the what was considered the normal, right? The
Right.
church or the mosque,
Hmm.
as Master has mentioned before. They chose not to step outside of that, and
Right.
they got caught up in it, and that's what works for them, and
Hmm.
that fear, I think fear, we talked about fear, and um just having that lack of like knowledge, because that's where the fear
Hmm.
stimulates from. So
Yeah. And people perish for lack of knowledge, because that ignorance is like, man, like some people want to stay in that ignorant place. I remember when I was a child, I don't know, I was in elementary school, that I do know. And I had an art project that I had to create, and what I drew was a rainbow. I drew a rainbow because I was like, I'm gonna include all the colors, and I was
Mhm.
so happy. I went home and I was showing my family. I was like, look what I made, look what I made, and my parents, they was like, oh, that's awesome, that's great. But when my auntie saw it, she was like, no, no, no. Like, no, do you know what that means? And she was like, that means, and she gave like what the symbol now in the dominant society, what it symbolizes now. And I
Mhm.
was like, and that was my first introduction to like that term or that sort of life. And I was like, why would you even like, like kind of taint, that person's perception? They had no idea what that was. You didn't even see like if that was okay with that child's parent too, to even see like, is it okay for me even to share that with her? Like they haven't had, my parents didn't have that conversation with me. So for her to kind of jump in and be like, no, I don't do that. And but I do think about like too, like going back to culture. That's why within our culture and our community, like everyone has to be on the same page, because then you may have a situation like that, and it's like what do you do? Like it's discord. So it's like, what do you do? Because my parents could have came back and be like, why would you do that? It could have been like an issue between that relative and my parents. And
Mhm.
sometimes there were situations like that where the relative will feel one way and the parents like, oh no, like that's, don't bring that over here. And but it just kind of like shows like two different mindsets, like, and people, I think with the Western culture too, like it's a whole bunch of different opinions within that one culture. So it's a whole bunch of chaos. Like it's no laws or like guidelines to like, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, period. And well, it is, but it's like, is that based in righteousness, or it's not, it's based on a different Yah. I should say it like that. It's a
And
different Yah.
it does seem like, of course, a lot of the different opinions that people take on is it's always laced with something. So like maybe it's not necessarily scholarly, or it's not necessarily I sat down and I really dig for information and I came up with a hypothesis and maybe I tested it, or it's never that, but it's always maybe there's some sort of emotion that was invoked behind whatever the message or the information that was given to you. So a lot of times, sometimes people implant their opinions, and it really is like, what? It
Right.
kind of down a road where it's like, what? Why? I think we were talking about that. We were talking about certain things that you may not do, or you may not choose to celebrate because it may go against your culture. But if you don't have a rhyme and reason as to why you don't do it or why you do it, then it becomes like, you just talking, basically you just talking, and it doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah.
essentially, yeah, those even those celebrations, they're symbolic of something. But if we don't know the meaning behind it, then it's kind of like, okay, somebody just told you to do that, or maybe you're just doing it out of fear of questioning it, or
Yeah.
moving outside of what everybody else does.
Yeah, well, I would ask you, like, do you entertain those sort of conversations where people may ask, like, "Oh, you don't celebrate this or you don't celebrate that"? Do you entertain, like, what is your response, if any?
Well, I don't get a lot of those questions, but if I do, I mean, I simply do say, well, it doesn't coincide with my culture, and most
Hmm.
people will just leave it at that. When it comes to relatives, I think I made a strong enough like a decision, like this is what I want to
Yeah,
do. Um, and I guess because I wasn't around enough for them to really jump in and ask and question anything. They just kind of be like, okay. So, because
gotcha.
I've always been considered weird to them, so they were
Mm,
like, "Well, she's doing something else weird. We don't know what she's doing, but
right.
okay." So, yeah,
Same.
but yeah. What
Same.
about you?
uh I would say like over the years, well, I was called crazy by my family at first. They was like, she didn't join a cult, she didn't turn crazy. This was before I knew, but I was always searching for community. So the what I found, I won't mention the name, but the community that I found, they thought it was a cult, and they was like, because of what I was saying. It was because of what I was saying. I just
Mm,
was blurting out outlandish, like, triggering, phrases, and just saying certain things like for shock factor. And it's like, what the heck is going on? So it looked crazy to them versus
mm,
like, being like, having some modesty and discernment and speaking more intelligently. But I was a baby in quote unquote consciousness. So I was just like blurting out all the things that I was learning without like, just, yeah, I didn't have any type of discernment. I didn't have no filter, I should say. But when it came to like the holidays and things of that nature, the only time I've had to say something is when someone would ask me, or they'll say like, "Oh, can I give you this?" Like pronounce like, "Oh, can I give you?" And I'm like, "No, no, I don't do that." And it's like, "Oh, why not?" And I was like, "Well." I said, "Well, why do you?" I always reverse it, like, "Well, why do you celebrate?" And it's kind of, "Well, I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah." So I don't go deep into it. I don't go deep into it. I was like, "Oh, it's just not something I celebrate. It's not a part of my." I have said like it's not a part of my culture. But then
Mm-hmm.
like, but if it's like further discussion, like, or like probing, I'll start to ask like, okay, well, why do you celebrate it? You
Mm-hmm.
know, but usually it's no, no intelligent answer. I haven't heard one yet. That made sense to me.
Yeah,
You know.
I've pretty much gotten the same, well, this is what we've always done, or I don't know, that's just what we do, or,
Hmm.
so I think, as we're talking about it and we're just saying like those questions, I think about a child. And, I mean, if we take it back to symbols, I think children, because they come and they're curious and they're seeking and they're exploring, that to me, a child is a symbol of why. That
Hmm.
question, why they're always seeking and asking questions. So it took me back to when I would ask those questions as a little one, like, well, why do we do this, or why can't we do that, or why, and you never got answered. You know.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Peace. Thank you, Lahana, for posting. I think she's speaking about Rosie, the Riveter, the lady that was doing the strong arm. I think that's what she's referring to, the name.
Gotcha. Let's go back to Master's comment. He said, two wings from the same bird. We should shoot out the sky and stop letting it enslave us. And I think he was referring to the whole political party of, are you Democrat
Mm.
or Republican? So
Oh, okay. Okay.
I guess it's like red pill, blue pill.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, that's that's why I don't like entertain like those sort of conversations, because those is like, that's one of those conversations where it's like you don't, from my understanding, like you don't openly like just come at a person with and start talking about it, because it can has the potential to kind of lead to a heated debate, like whether you're talking about religion or politics. So I usually like stay away from those sort of topics unless I'm speaking to someone who is already open minded. But if there's somebody that's already closed minded, I stay away from those sort of topics that can invoke that, sort of interaction, or disagreement. That's
Mhm.
that's just me. I don't know if anybody else like kind of goes into it with other people, in regards to those views, but I try to stay away from it if I can.
I usually do. If I can't really speak too much on them, then it's not something that I will really try to have a in-depth conversation with. If we talking about art, maybe.
Hmm.
But I always
Yeah,
wonder, I guess, why those particular topics of discussion are so heavy, like so heavy,
yeah.
and such a sensitive point. Like I'm like in my head as you're saying it, I'm like people don't get into that much of a heated debate when it comes to music
Hmm.
or maybe art. But I think about a even this ties back to like when Master was talking about how you in certain industries they hire certain people to create certain visual effects or music or whatever it is. And it took me back to like tying visual arts to religion. And there was a particular art piece. It was called The Pissing Christ.
Okay.
And it was I cannot remember the artist, but I remember it was a what do you call it? I can't even think of it, but a an art piece where you it's pretty much I guess like a ready-made art piece or an assembly. That's what it was. And there was a figurine piece. I think it was like the cross,
Hmm.
and this man who was literally just urinating on it, and they had
Oh,
a of it,
I think
and
I might have heard of that. Yeah, when I had an art, I took an art class. And I
mhm,
think they were, yeah, I think they were sharing that piece.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like
that was.
people were extremely angry about that. It was like, how could you do? And it just made me
Mhm.
think about like with the super or the Olympics. I'm talking about the Super Bowl, but the Olympics and
Mhm.
what he was saying, how people were offended by this image of the Last Supper, but just like he was saying, that image itself wasn't even in the Helios Biblios, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
even in the Bible, but
Right.
people are attached to that image and somehow it triggers something. So the same with the Piston crisis. Like you have this figurine or this I think it was the cross that
Mhm.
people have in their head, and it's like, but you're getting upset about this particular image, but you're associating it with something that really wasn't even in the Bible. So it
Mm.
to me that was just like interesting. It was just an interesting idea. Like you missed the whole point. Like what is it that this art piece is trying to actually say?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of like I think purpose like they purposely put things in media to kind of get conversation going or like even like distract people from what's really going on, what's really happening. And I
Mhm.
don't know if anybody, like, I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say after hearing today's build, because like it was like I enjoyed it, like looking at the different images and seeing like what the heck, like what, like what is that, like oh my goodness, like okay. And I think we were given some deep information today, like some tools that we can dive into. Because I am that person that would see certain things like, okay, I know that's crazy, but I don't know what it means. But that looked just as funny and strange. And I see symbols, and I know it means something, but not necessarily knowing like what exactly is being said. So
Right.
I am appreciative that he gave like the different tools that we can go and actually start researching and start looking so that we have that understanding. But
Hmm.
I am curious to hear what others thought. But I even thought about the commercial with Celine Dion, and how she was wearing all black, and she had the suit on, and just like it's been a while since I looked at mainstream like commercials or media. So when I seen it, I'm like, this is the type of like commercials that they're showing. I'm like, this is so different since the last time I seen it. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow, like yeah, it
Like
looked pretty crazy.
it's like you're looking at it with a different pair of eyes as
Mhm.
opposed to maybe before. And it's always interesting because like there are times where I guess as you go further and further along in your journey, and there are times where you may be around your relatives or maybe colleagues or old friends, and you guys may be watching something or come across something, and it's interesting to be able to hear like how other people are seeing something, and you may be seeing
Mhm.
it different because like I said, you have a different pair of eyes, you have more insight than maybe the your other relatives or friends may have.
Right.
And I always think that's interesting to be able to just see like, this is where they are. So I wonder when people looked at that video, aside from those who are on the live today, I wonder what
Mhm.
they thought.
Hmm.
You know.
Yes. Yeah, I'm curious too, because I even thought about the idea of like being able to like having that discernment is important too, because it's like to really know the truth of like, okay, when I know the truth of what I'm seeing, then I know like if it's something that is wicked, or I know if it's something that is like righteous. And being able to have that information, then I know like what to do about what I'm seeing.
Hmm.
And I did think about Matthew 5:10, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I do think about like how everything was flipped, where it's like those who are righteous now they're like persecuted and told like you speak lies, or you
Hmm.
crazy, or you in a cult, or you like they get all of they like it's obvious that lies are being spoken about them, but it's like they are like just put to the cross, for standing up for truth and righteousness. And I think about the documentary "What Is a Woman" and how like the person that created the document, I forget his name, Matt. I think it was Matt. I forgot his name. So if anybody know it, please put in the chat. But like
I
I
don't think
looked at that person. Yeah, I looked at that person as somebody that was persecuted for like going on a journey to discover like the truth to that question.
hmm
And how people was like saying like, no, you blasphemous, you all kind of stuff was thrown, like
Mm,
he was looked at as the crazy one, you know. So it's like that's an example of like when the wicked speak lies, you know, and that was one of the seven abominations, the lying tongue, and you know. So I'm like, this is a crazy world that we're in.
yeah,
Um,
I guess as you said that, I'm thinking about, of course, Yahushua and just him being persecuted for just speaking the truth, and and I think like we know that's a part of it. Like if you take on that journey, you take that walk, that's just a part of what it's gonna be. So
mm,
peace, Master Menelik. Shabbat
peace,
shalom.
peace, Master Elect.
Shabbat shalom, sisters. How you doing?
Shalom. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I was. Oh, the name of the guy who did the documentary is Matt Walsh.
There we go.
Was his last
Oh,
Okay.
name?
There we go. Now we
Yeah,
okay.
I was thinking about after Chief did this segment, I was thinking about the word radical uh came to mind and jumped out at me because you always hear these terms being thrown around like in political scenes where people are talking about someone's political radical or they have radical ideas and they use it usually in the sense of this person is thinking on an extreme end of this spectrum. Like they're almost like how Chifa described them as two wings of the same bird. Like you're just at the tip of one of the wings, you know. So they try to describe it like that. But that radical actually means root. You know, it's something that goes to the root. And when you
Mhm.
see people attempting to make radical changes now in the way that we see the world, they attack things like what a woman is. Like, and we're so, some of these things are just so self explanatory and self evident. You don't feel the need to have a proper definition for what a woman is until someone tries to deconstruct what a woman is and reconstruct it in their own image. Or like that commercial with Celine Dion where she tries to deconstruct what children are and then try to reconstruct it in the image of the gender, you know, or deconstruct what a man is. So I'm
Mhm.
attacking like the law of gender. You think of the seven hermetic principles, right? One of them is the principle of gender, which is like under heavy attack. Of course, cause and effect is one of them. Polarity is one of them. Vibration is one of them. But you see them being attacked and being I don't know if there's a word for it, but they're being brought down to a very earthly sort of level where
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
everything has to be like if it's not like if you bring up anything esoteric, you always have someone asking for proof. Well, I can't see it, so where is it? You know, but you're looking for a physical manifestation of the thing, which is like at the end of it, you know, the end of the life cycle of the thing. And now we're seeing all of these symbols in these like in the Paris games and stuff like that. And Chief is breaking down, you know, what all of these symbols mean. And like you have to really step back and think, okay, these symbols are like manifested of something else, a manifestation of something else. It happened in someone's mind, and then they started to act on it. And now you're seeing a more physical representation of it where everyone can see it now. But they don't necessarily know what it is because they can't trace it back to its spiritual roots. And that's where people kind of get scared and they start going, you know, like they're saying, if you're scared, go to church. You know, they start going back to church or they start digging into their spiritual studies because I know something is going on a spiritual level, but I don't know what it is. And willfully, the spiritual system that I got brought up in, whether I abandon it or not, maybe if I recommit myself to it, I'll get some answers or I'll understand what's going on because I don't know what's going on. It's triggering my amygdala. You know, my fight or flight response is going crazy. I don't know if to fight, flight, freeze, what to do. So I'll just go to church, you know, and like be like an ostrich, bury my head in the sand. Or I
Mm.
might actually get back into studying, you know, but it's a reaction that comes as a result of what I'm seeing. I don't know what I'm seeing, but I don't like it. Something's funny, so I'll just react to it in a very pre-programmed way. And the best thing I know about in terms of holiness or being sanctified might be church, or it might be the mosque, or it might be meditation, or I need to go home and rub on my crystals, or whatever it is. I'm tying myself back to what I think is the highest level of spirituality that I could, conceive of.
Hmm. Yeah. I wonder if those people that you speak of that always need to see something physical before they know I need to see it to know if it's real, or I wonder if those people have the Ruach Hakodesh inside of them. If if maybe they're not able to see that part, maybe because they don't have that in them. I don't know. I just that's what came to my mind. You know.
It seems like
But
it's the trust or faith also. Like, because, well, I don't know. It seemed like it would link to that. If you don't see something, does that mean it can't be real or it can't be truth? Or that's what I'm wondering. Does it tie back to that?
yeah, but some people they do like they may be like on the extreme spectrum. It seems like where they feel a lot of things and they think that they're picking up on things, but then it's like you don't know if that's like really true. Like some people like they be making up things too. So it's like it seems like it's like you just have to have the discernment as a person to be able to see what's actually happening. You know. But,
Yeah, you also have to just look at human nature in general. And like Chief was talking about with the signals that are sent to your brain.
Hmm.
Uh, like for example, everybody doesn't react to the outdoors the same way. You know, some people they love being outdoors, like they love playing in the dirt. They like being next to natural bodies of water. It lets them recharge. Where other people they don't like being outside and they're always fearful. So if you take one of each of those person and they're walking out in the woods and at the same time a leaf brushes up against the back of each of their necks, their brains aren't going to say the same thing.
mm-hmm.
One's brain is going to say, oh, okay, that's probably a leaf, let me turn around and see what it is. And like someone else, the other person, the fearful one, would be like, that's a spider. It's going to kill me. That's a spider. I knew I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have come outside. So what are you already pre-programmed to do? Because there are certain channels that are carved into your brain over time where you do stuff automatically and you don't realize you're doing it. Until what you're going to do, you might reach for something and it doesn't apply. Like if something falls and your automatic response is to catch it. My brother used to always get on me for this. Like, if something falls, my automatic response is to catch it. Even if it's a sharp kitchen knife that's fallen, I will reach out to it and grab it off a reflex,
Hmm.
you know, which is no bueno. Right? But I might not realize it until, like, I could have just cut myself,
Yeah.
you know, and that gives me an opportunity to sort of change. Like Chief was saying, like he's not gonna go into it all the way or as deeply as it could be explored, but willfully it'll crack your psyche open a little bit so that you can go in and explore and see how you've been programmed. Which is why I appreciate this segment. A lot of breakdowns that Chief does because it's usually like 6 or 7 light bulb moments in a row.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's something that helps you to move ahead of the programming before the thing programs itself.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I thought about like, that's interesting that you say that. Actually, that statement there. And I thought about the image of Snoop Dogg that they had and how he had the chain like around his neck, and I just thought about like what happens in that person. Like you may have go a long stint with like, no, I'm not messing with that, and then all of a sudden you got Like I just wonder like what happens where a person just decides like, all right, I gotta go and I gotta go on this other side now. Like that just seems like
It
it's
seems
like
like, um, you know, and this might be me reaching, I don't know, but I think about people like that who maybe their foundation wasn't anything that could tie them or to keep them tied to something that was maybe solid, right? Like maybe because I think a lot of rappers, or I don't know, some of them come out of the church or they don't have any sort of religion or anything that binds them back. But even if they did, like it seems like those spaces that they come out of initially are already corrupted. So I don't see what would prevent them from going on the quote unquote other side, because it's like, well, if you're already corrupted, then this is just another level of corruption that you're already familiar with. So
Hmm.
maybe it wasn't hard for them, too hard for them to go on over to the other side, you know. That's my thought.
Yeah.
I was gonna say some people think they're too far gone when
Mm.
they when they when they start doing things that aren't righteous, and when it's made clear to them that it's not righteous, or they may already know it's not righteous.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Sometimes they think that they're so far gone that they might as well just go all in.
That's
You know,
Dang.
if I'm irredeemable, then I might as well quote unquote have as much fun as possible.
Dang. It's like I've been double minded for too long, so let me go ahead and let my nay be the nay and or my
mm,
yay be the yay.
Hmm.
That's sad. That's pretty sad though. Yeah, but that scripture did come to my mind, like those who are double minded, like like you got one foot in over here, one foot out here, and it's like, yeah, it seemed like you would go insane eventually, like you would go crazy,
mm,
like functioning like that, or like I do think about Chief's Commander Day on symbols and how he spoke about like some people, like he was like it's not a good thing to be like a walking mystery, and he was saying that some people do that is because they have put on the clothes of something, but they really live in something totally different, so they're walking around, they may be wicked or like doing all kind of vile acts, and so they don't want to like reveal that, so it's like I'm gonna stay vague or I'm gonna stay a mystery, I'm not gonna give details about myself, and so I thought about that too, like how we're symbols ourselves, and like what we symbolize when we walk out, like what do people see when they see that person, they're like, oh, this they that, or like do we even consciously like choose, like, what, this is a symbol I want to be, and I saw when I walk out, this is what I'm gonna try to project, or my the real authentic self, because we're not supposed to like just go out with a false identity, but it's supposed to be genuine and real, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, Chief had said something similar, and I'm sorry if y'all can hear the
Just a
thunder in the
little bit.
background.
Oh,
Um, Chief had also said, I think it was in a segment on letting go, how people tend to do that as well. Like they kind of, I think the word he'd use is banner. That they sort of try to hide under the banner of, like you could be talking about any type of deep concept, and they'd be right there with you until you say, well, let's commit to doing something. It's like, oh, I'm a Christian, we don't do that. You know,
yeah.
mm,
or I'm a Muslim, I don't do that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not a Christian. You know,
Not a real one.
all the stuff you're doing, all the stuff you're talking about, you're not a Christian. You're just using that as a banner to, I'm paraphrasing, but I think he said you're using that as a banner to keep people off you.
yep. Keep people up off it.
Hmm.
And I think about like sometimes that can corrupt other people. Like, yeah, I guess I'm thinking about what I've seen growing up, and sometimes find out, oh, like you're not who you say you are. Like that can really like destroy other people. So, hmm, you know, like that becomes an imprinted symbol in other people's mind. Like, okay, people who say they're about certain lifestyles or whatever is not real. None of them are real. They kind of put everybody in that box, like because you were symbolic of that person who said they were something and wasn't, and just hiding behind a banner. So you start to clump everybody in that category, and so that can be, you know.
Yeah, I thought about like the manipulation aspect, because that's something that like I'm working on, like being authentic and like, okay, what is the real or true me, like what is naturally like wants to come out, and how can I just be without overthinking, like trying to like, okay, well maybe I'm gonna be this person for this one or this one over here, I'm gonna try to be different things, but I learned like, okay, well, people who live in truth, they can see like the person like faking it pretty much. Like they see faking it and how that person like, or myself, how we done things to kind of like how we do things that are not true to like what we really are. It's like we may be trying to become a certain thing, but we're not it yet. So we may come and present ourselves like, yeah, I'm this righteous person. You know, I be doing this. I be reading the scriptures and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you say that, but you're not exuding a person who is really like studying that. You know, it's just on your auras, on your energy, and so I think about like how those who are living in truth can see like, oh no, you're trying to manipulate me because I already know that you're not what you're saying you are. So yeah, I thought
Right.
about that aspect too, you know, but I'm just thankful that we're giving grace because I know, like, you know, and I knew we are striving to live a culture that we were not living before. I knew. So it's
Right.
like, you know, so I'm thankful for the grace. Like, oh, I know you see me, but as long as we walking
It's,
and we're striving, you know.
right.
She did
It's
say
a
that.
lot stripping away.
What
That's
you
what comes.
say?
There's a lot of stripping away. That's what comes to mind as you're saying that. It's like, uh-oh, think masculine like got wiped off. Too much truth.
Mm.
Too much truth on the line.
I
But
might have. I think I got struck by lightning.
Oh, oh no.
but yeah, I just think about that stripping away. Because the way that you function maybe before, like coming into the truth, it was such
Okay.
a normalcy of deceiving and just, that was just a normal way of being. So now when you come into the truth, it's like, oh, what is, like you said, what is authentic? What is truth? What is, who is that person, So,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you wanted to share anything else, Massman, like, but I think I shared everything that came to my mind just based off of study session last night and today's Sabbath insight. Would have loved to hear from more, but it's okay. You can always share your thoughts in the comment section. That's always appreciated as well.
I think I came in on the back end of Sister Margie's statement, but she had said something that made me think of the commercial, the Celine Dion commercial, like how Sister Margie, correct me if I'm wrong, you were saying that some people come into truth and they now have to re-examine everything that they've been doing because there was such a normalcy to it.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm thinking about the humming of "Go to Sleep" in the video,
mm
and um, like the automatic function that people operate on sometimes, and the only time that they're really outraged is when that status quo is changed. So like, I'm cool with celebrating Earth days. I'm cool with whatever's going on. But a good example is what Chief was talking about with 9/11 and how some people don't really know what a pre 9/11 world looks like. And I sometimes forget what it looks like because it's like, all right, airport security cut tested. And I sometimes forget, like, there was a point where you can just go to the terminal and get through with much less effort, much less screening, um, and it was much less dehumanized, because you
Mm.
got these people yelling, barking orders. All right, everybody, come up to the. Put your shoes in the tray. Take all your laptops out of the bag. Any electronics, put them on the tray. Yes, you sir, take your
Uh,
electronics. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Take your electronics out of the bag. It's like,
yeah.
no, I'm not stupid. You know, but it's a controlling thing. But you get used to it after a while. Sometimes
mm
you just walk through and it's like, oh, they're barking orders, they're barking orders. But there was a time where in those transitional spaces where it's like some people didn't like that. Like, this is BS. You ain't got to treat people like that. Treat me like
Mm.
I'm a terrorist. I'm not a terrorist. After a
Mm.
while, it's like, yeah, this is just what we do.
Dang. So how was it like before? Because I know like when 9/11 happened, I was in middle school, but I wasn't like catching any flights or anything before that, or so
I
like.
caught I caught one flight, so
Okay,
I only did
okay,
it once. So
okay,
that's why I forget about it. I
yeah.
did one flight when I was real young. Went to the States once, and then after that, I didn't go to the States for
Mm,
years. And it was different. But then my perception of the whole thing is, well, this is what it is.
mm-hmm,
You know,
yeah.
most of the complaints I hear about it that made me realize that it was different was from comedians when they were talking about it, and also from shows like I remember this movie, a couple drug movies where they're smuggling, and it's like,
Mm,
you have no security. He just walked through. you know.
mm.
So oh, and Sister Yafa is saying too.
She said I
Yeah,
Um,
would.
because I remember being able to go to the airport and watch the planes take off. There was no TSA checkpoints. You could move around freely.
Mm,
yeah, you can't do that no more. After this one act, now I can clamp down on you with some control measures.
Mm,
Uh, and I don't know what it was like previously in terms of um, other milestones of freedom that were removed.
mm,
mm,
So you grow up in oppression. There's some aspects of oppression that you don't even consider to be oppressive because you're so desensitized to it, and it all actually seems normal. And if you ask, well, why do we do it? Then you get a very generic answer that lets you know why the person agreed to do it, but not necessarily why you have to do it.
mm,
mm,
So you get it from your parents or your guardians. And there was a couple more things about the symbols too. I'm trying to remember them because all of my notes are on the device that I'm using, so I can't pull them right back up. But there's a couple of things like the numbers was one thing. Snoop Dogg situation was another thing in terms of yeah, he got that case and he had the song "Murder" was the case. I remember that song too because I would try to imagine what the entity talking to him was like, and I would always think about word games and how word games are kind of messed up too. Because it was at one point he's talking to the spirit and he was telling him how he would allow him to live, and he said, "Well, how long would I live?" And then he said, "Eternal life lasts forever." But he doesn't tell him where he'd spend that eternity. He just said
mm,
he just gave him a fact. Oh, did you know eternal life lasts forever? He just gave him a fact. And it's similar to DMX. He had a song called Damien, and he would answer in similar ways. And you could see right there the technology of I'm gonna give you an answer, but it's not the answer to your question.
mm,
I'm gonna give you information, but it's not relevant information. It's just information that'll make you go, okay. I'll just say this one more thing
mm,
before I hop off, just to on the same point. There's like a clip of a guy who does like magician pranks, and he's pouring coffee for someone, and like how they have the coffee sleeves, the cardboard coffee sleeves. He's pouring the coffee for him, and he was like, "Oh, the coffee cup is getting hot." So he takes his hand off of the coffee cup, and the cup is floating. And then he grabs
mm,
the coffee sleeve and puts it on the coffee cup. The dude sees it with his own eyes. The cup was floating, and
yeah.
then he brings it up. He's like, "Did that cup just float?"
Mm,
And all the guy says, the magician says, is, "Oh yeah, the cup was getting hot. So and I was pouring the coffee and the cup was getting hot. So I just reached for the sleeve. I had to take my hand off it, because it was starting to burn me. And I put the sleeve on. He did. The other guy didn't have a level two to. I just saw this cup float. You got to explain
yeah.
that to me. He was just like, "Oh well, well, you gave me a reason, so I don't want to push further because you just
Mm,
told me something in response to me calling out the fact that the cup was floating." So
mm,
sometimes to get people to back off,
mm,
they only need to hear a response or a quote unquote rationale. They don't necessarily have to believe it. It doesn't have to be true. They
right.
don't have to explore it. just give me something. And I'd be like, oh, well, um, okay, see you later. I guess I
Right.
have to think about it.
Yeah, I just,
When
yeah.
you said it, I'm thinking like in my head, I just saw the image of a person, like you're just being given something like some crumbs or whatever, or something, and but you're still wandering around lost.
Mm.
You
Hmm.
just gave me something, but it doesn't actually point me in the direction of truth or what I'm looking for. So I'm still out here wandering and lost.
Yeah, I thought about like that's a tactic. I think that Jezebels use like that's like manipulation, like a sign that someone is playing a trick on you and trying to confuse your mind and confound you. And because it's like you could ask somebody a straight direct question like, okay, why did you go to this place? On Yam Shishi or whatever, and they could be like, oh well, I had a lot of things to do, and I just and they give like a vague answer. You like I stopped talking to the person they do that because it's like yeah you're not wanting to give truth and it's like it's that tactic it's very annoying so I just I just have to share I have to share but
Hmm.
yeah
Yeah, like Chief was talking about Snoop too. Snoop is a good example when Chief was saying,
yeah
"Oh, what's with this
hmm
Baphomet thing around your neck?" Oh,
Oh,
nothing at
right
all, man. I'm having fun in Paris. And it's a similar
exactly
thing. Well, we did confront him, but what did he say? He
right
said, "Leave
nothing
him alone. He was having fun in Paris, so I just left it alone."
hmm
didn't answer
yeah
the call.
hmm
Yeah, didn't answer the
yeah so
question.
Sapta Hava says all travel was different back in the day, as Chief was saying. When I was in the military, you could take a military hop to other countries without a passport. Hmm.
hmm,
I didn't know you could do that.
Hmm.
wow I didn't know that either
Yeah, I didn't know. Yafe says, yes, Sapta. I remember being able to cross into Canada with just a birth certificate, no passport needed. So passports
wow
are fairly new, huh? Because
I wouldn't say that they're new. I don't know how it worked for y'all because it's different for me. Everywhere I go needs a passport because we so small. So
oh
I don't
yeah.
know how it worked for you guys because in the states I could it wasn't until I traveled to the states that I realized why a lot of people in the states don't have passports because it's so big and you could drive everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know.
mean, I thought about that when you were saying how you have to go through TSA and you got to go through all of these things just to go and travel somewhere. And I just thought about, like, well, what if you just drive, or what if you had your own, I don't know, way of transportation or something? Like, maybe the convenience of flying is what made you give away certain rights, But what if you chose to do it the hard way, or the long way? You wouldn't have to go through all of that. So I think about that in terms of like when people just accept certain things that's given to them instead of maybe driving that car and going seeking that knowledge or that information. And then, they wouldn't be so, subjugated to taking what's given to them out of
Yeah,
fear.
you could consider what's you could look at what's considered to be normal too because let's say someone could go from the Bahamas to Florida. Like there's a guy who's a YouTuber. He can go between um, the Bahamas and South Florida or even West Palm on a jet ski.
mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to fly, And some people have their own boats and they can drive to the states, right? But you don't necessarily see that as being a common thing or purported as a normal thing. Having a car is normal. Having a moped or a motorcycle is normal, but it's not really normalized for people who have airplanes or boats that can make cross continental trips. Even though we've been on this planet for however long, we don't normalize being able to make those long treks without needing to go through some sort of larger service.
Mhm.
You know, so even that level of restriction or lockdown is something to be aware of because now you're being funneled. Even with all of these symbols, you're sort of being funneled and the population is being corralled. Like I like to think of it as if I was an overlord and I had millions of humans that I needed to keep track of or keep under control, how would I corral these people into a single place to manage them better?
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
I got to use whatever's at my disposal. That's a tough gig to be able to do that. You know, I'm gonna need some help. So I need people who are intelligent enough and secretive enough to control people without letting them know that they're being controlled. It's almost like um, it's kind of harsh language, but it's almost like being a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
peace.
Peace, peace.
No.
Peace,
I think
brother
I
Heat.
see what you did there.
Well, I
Brother
see
he
what y'all did. I figure ain't nobody going no names today, so we just gonna roll with it.
With sister, T and Tamara.
Yeah, that's what we gonna do. Then that's what we gonna do.
All right, all
Please.
right.
Yeah, but I was
said,
just talking about the level of the measures of control that these people put in place when they're considering controlling large populations. You talk about I'm responsible for how many millions of people? How am I supposed to make sure that they don't like destroy the place? And you come up with all of these different programs to keep them in check. I
mhm,
think about that like from the perspective of a teacher. I got a classroom of 40 children
Mm-hmm.
just running wild. How do I make sure that they actually sit at their desk and do their work without tearing things up or fighting each other or whatever? Like these people are going to use the techniques that are given to them. Okay, this is how you keep things under control. This is how you make sure that they don't go out and steal. This is how you keep them fearful of creating too many children. And these things are like throughout history, it seems like trial and error, and they just study past empires. Like, okay, that worked. That one kind of didn't work. They had a revolt there, and you could see some of the bloodiest revolts, like the French Revolution. It's like, all right, we don't want to go down that road. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a weird kind of thing when you consider all of these symbols that are used to keep people in check, but also symbols that are used to let your enemies know that they're still your enemies.
mm.
Well,
Did you want to jump in and share something?
Yeah, yeah, I was first listening to I was talking about the airports, and my pops used to work for the airlines, so it was one thing. I remember going all the way going. You can go to the concourses, get some ice cream. You used to get some discounts in that joint. You didn't have to go through no TSA. You would just go, like anytime somebody was traveling or coming, we would walk them all the way to their gate, and we would all sit there looking out the window, just talking. And all right, you got everything. My grandma used to make us sandwiches, and she would sit right there next to us. Now it started making me think of though, like how do you get people to give up anything and transition them into what you want to transition them into? And again, going back to that fear of you don't question it anymore because you understand these are the reasons why we're doing it. So now if somebody says, you can't go down there to do that anymore because you got to protect from people who want to hurt other people. There's people who might want to get on the plane, and who knows how they got down there. So we just want to card everybody before they get down there to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe. Because look at all of these people who had to give their lives up for this particular time, and it's not a matter of now. And I think that even goes back to what Chief was talking about earlier with just we associate things with things, and with not even, these are things that we don't touch. Or if you did start to question it, then it's like, you don't understand, or you're being inconsiderate, or you're not having any compassion. Um, or all of these innocent people that died, and they had to die for a certain reason. What was the reason that they gave their lives? And it's the reason that we might have to give up some of our basic freedoms in order
Mm,
to now make sure that we honor those so this doesn't happen again. And if you start to hit some of these conversations, or even talking about political aspects, or talk about Democrats or Republicans, and all Democrats or Republicans, then it's a matter of, now people get highly emotional. And when they get highly emotional, now you're offending me because you don't see things the way that I see things, or you're not thinking of humanity. And if you're not thinking of humanity and the greater good, then what are you only thinking of yourself? And then this is where people you start throwing darts at each other, and it's a matter of, no, can you sit and just think and see really what is actually going on? And when you start throwing those dates out, I was like, yo, a piece of me is wants to be like, this just got to be, it's just a coincidence, right? Like, it started making me, my movie's The Matrix, and it's like, when my man Neo, she was like, just get you a cookie. Just remember, you don't believe any of this stuff, and all of it, you'll go back to the way it is. And I'm sitting there like, nah, this ain't real. That ain't, them dates don't, it's just one big coincidence, and it just so happened to happen on that day. It just so happened those numbers add up to each other. Ain't no real big deal, is it? I'm like, yo, man. Because the more you get into it, the more it's like you're just getting hustled on every level, but then thinking that it is you got to tie yourself up by your bootstraps, and you're not working hard enough, and it's because that you're not working hard enough is why you're not succeeding in life. And and then I'm gonna go back to another thing, because I went back and watched that commercial again. And at first I was like, what do you mean there was no gender? Because I saw there was a boy and a girl clearly
Yeah.
on the
It's
wall. But then
weird.
when I went back and watched that joint again, I did see the dust um, remove it. Which then the dust, I did see her dress in the car, and then the black suit she had on was the same color as the dust that she sprinkled over the children. I don't know what significance that was, but I did recognize that. And then I did see they started at the end and then worked their way backwards, which I'm assuming that this is my end goal, that I'm showing you that this is what I want to get to. But now we just got to work our way backwards. There are children, but they're not our children. And we're all just changing the link. Then I'm wondering, okay, well, what are those crickets?
Oh,
That
Like a sound machine going on.
maybe mine.
it's
Nah, you
master.
fine, you fine, you fine. Let it play. It's just, yeah, we in nature. We won. Uh, and then I was like, what chain in the link are they saying that it's the evolution that nobody can stop, and you're not going to be able to stop how the youth are seeing the future, and the future is what they want to create, and we keep looking towards people who are older keep looking towards the past, while there's brand new eyes that are dreaming of the future. So now it's a matter of like, if they have the fairy dust, maybe. I don't know what that dust was about. I'm trying to put it together, but I ain't got it. Yeah, I ain't got it. The seasoning, maybe they got the seasoning uh, to create it while we're still looking at the past. But I don't know what that was about. But maybe y'all do.
I thought it was
Yeah.
um, maybe Franklin's ideas and thought, imputing it into the babies. Maybe I don't know.
What was the
Um,
first part?
like Franklin thoughts or spreading different thoughts or ideas or concepts into the children. It because I guess, but when we were talking about it, I'm thinking like, how they say, I believe the children are the future. So it's like if you get them while they're young and you start injecting certain ideas or certain things in them, then it stays within them. I think we talked about that. Of course, we were talking about what was it, the monkey.
The I'm not sure.
You mean the monkey on the ladder experiment?
What is it, the monkey jab or something, where it's like you got to get that monkey spirit out of you because it's something that was injected into.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like with the vaccines and like how they like inject all kind of different like maybe animal substances that you kind of gotta get out of your bloodstream and so we were just talking about different products and stuff that can be used that we heard of that's supposed to clean that stuff out, but we didn't know if it was true or not. But yeah,
But just the
Ooh.
idea, like who knows what kind of shots they're giving these new babies, right? When they're in the hospital, maybe it's something that does
Investigations.
put that sort of confusion in them, where it's like I can't identify with a man, I can't identify with a woman. I don't know what the heck I am. So it could have been that, you know.
What if? What if? So they got the colors that's in the our new way that men and women should wear, right? One's pointing to masculine, one's pointing to feminine. Is the colors of the black and the silver it's more like nighttime and the moon was more feminine, which is pointing towards more of a gynocentric look that one should start to take, which is why now it was all gender neutral after this, and we're going back to a feminine space where you can be anything that you want to be at this particular point. Could it mean that?
Uh, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure because I just thought about the feminine chaos that I did think about, like going back into that state of like there's no like how can I say it? The thought ran away from me. There's nothing defined. Yeah, there's nothing defined. That's what in masculine's definition. So that's what I was thinking. Like maybe the darkness is, symbolizing that chaos, but I don't know. I
I
There's
don't
was
know.
nothing
thinking
defined
along
in the
the same.
children.
What'd you say?
No, go
There's
ahead. I
nothing.
keep talking. I was
Oh,
talking.
okay. There's nothing defined in the children. Is that what you're saying?
Well, like there's no like definition. Like I guess with that community, the rainbow community, or I don't know what you call it, but it's like there's no like definitive like definition. Like I can be like whatever I feel, you know. So it's like that seems very like chaotic and not necessarily a true like a definition. Like I can't define this thing is clear. It's not really clear
Mm-hmm.
with that community, like what they're choosing to be. You know? It's
I was
confusing.
thinking along that
It's
too,
confusing.
along those lines. When you look at the color black, it's very absorptive. Like it absorbs light, and even when you consider like melanin, um, or like
Mm.
certain concepts, like you have the symbiote in Spider-Man, which is where you get the character Venom from. Anything that symbiote touches, it changes it, but it also kind of makes it stronger. And usually, when you have see substances like that in any type of media, they're usually black. Anything it touches, it's changeable. It could become quote unquote whatever it wants. It can shapeshift. And you see her covering all of these babies in it. And there's also something that I thought about that was interesting, which was they just put clothes on the babies. Nothing fundamental changed, but you're judging what these children are from the outside in, as opposed to from the inside out. So all I got to do is change your appearance, and I can convince you that I've changed your nature. Or all you have to do is change your appearance, wear certain clothes, wear certain makeup, wear certain hairstyles, maybe even get a little bit of a surgery
Mm-hmm.
to change yourself from the outside in. But if she wanted to talk about all these ideas of children can decide for themselves, y'all could have used better imagery than someone breaking into a nursery, sprinkling some crack on some children, getting tackled, and then telling everybody who you are, like because you're supposed to be famous. If you were that famous, you wouldn't have to keep saying your name. Like, I'm
Mm.
Celine Dion. You said that like 5 times already. We
Well,
get it.
maybe.
You're Celine Dion. It, and then at the end, homegirl's like, yeah, whatever. I'm Beyonce. Well, yeah, you could just announce whatever you want, and you expect people to actually believe in you, or are you saying that no matter how much you tell the world who and what you are, there's still gonna be people who don't believe in you, but that doesn't mean that you're not that thing.
Mm.
The first thing that I thought of when that happened was that I'm not black, I'm OJ. Like that's Well, like when she kept, you know who I am. Like this is who I am. This is my identity. But going back to a piece that you just made me think of, which I don't know if it was today or this was said yesterday. What was that tree, or it was like a plant that just consumes anything when it wants water?
Alfalfa.
Alfalfa. I was gonna say a leaf, but I was alfalfa. So when you were just saying the the black and anything that it touches, it made me think of that. You know, I'm gonna do anything in order to make sure that this agenda is carried out, right? No matter what I have to cross over, no matter what I have to blank out, blot out, recreate history. I don't care what it is that I need to do. I'm going to make sure I reach and touch water. I'm going to make sure that I reach and touch my agenda. So therefore, I'm going to make sure that I plant these seeds in these children, that whatever needs to be done is going to get done. And it was started even making me think of like the role of religion. And you know, even if and having a one world religion where everybody sinks deeper into their religion, though, of thinking that I'm going in the correct direction and this is the best thing that I can do for my brother, because it says, you know, love your neighbor as thyself, honor God. But which God are you serving? It really doesn't matter, because all of them are the same. And if
Mm-hmm.
all of them are the same and we're all going in the same direction, then that means now it's going to be even harder for when one starts to try to give somebody going in a different direction, or give them some information that says something other than what the dominant society says. Then now you got, like was said, was he still talking about Illuminati, which would be those who start to pull you back though and say no. And if everybody though was still is operating from this same religion, then where do you turn to then? Is you're going to start thinking that you are the crazy one, that you are, there's something wrong. I think that goes back to there's an old saying that if, I mean, you're going to start questioning your own reality, because everybody else around you is starting to say, nah, man, you're a little off. Or you're, instead of you like, you know what, I'm just not around the people that I need to be having these conversations with, you're going to start maybe second guessing, you know what, in order for me to have better conversations, in order for me to have better relationships, in order for me to have some diversity, then there's certain things that I need to do, where I need to present myself, and maybe these things are certain seeds that was somebody has implanted or somebody has given to me. I need to eradicate these seeds, which therefore even making it that much easier for one to play out an agenda, because now all of your defenses are dropped, because now you're in line with the dominant society and you don't want to get out of line. So it's like, I look at it like in grade school, you know, how many times people say, oh, children can be so cruel. Because if you don't have the certain shoes on, or if you don't have this clothes on, then they're going to start making fun of you. Or they're going to start doing things. And the worst thing that one wants to do is show up to school and be teased. Or what so many people say is, I was bullied when I was a child. So because I was bullied, now I have all of this trauma that I gotta wear the best clothes, I gotta wear the best this, I gotta wear the best that. So now, if somebody gets older, how many people are actually gonna say, I know that's how hard it was for me to deal with that when I was a child. It's so easy for me to deal with it though when I'm an adult, and I can totally start to tell everybody, no, you go this, that. I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. Even though some will try, but then this is why you add all of these letters to the alphabet. So now we're all in this together. Even though some of them will tell you, no, we ain't. I don't know what this, I don't like this person. I don't know what these, but then, oh no, we're all on one flag and it's all one banner. Trying to eliminate some of the rifts between them, but it's always going to exist. But it's a matter of, though, can one start to take a look at it and say, it's okay for me to stand on my own, even if everybody is trying to tell me to go in one direction, but that direction is leading to the slaughterhouse. Whatever. I'm thinking out loud, so it's just going out. It's coming out anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
My
think
head
about
just
it. Oh, go ahead, sister. You good? You good?
no, I what popped in my head, I guess, as he was saying that it's like everybody else is going one way, and then one person stands up and says something different. I thought about in Bereshit, where it was like that one Elohim that stood up and was like, "Oh, it's not good for man to be alone. Like, we're gonna make him a helpmeet." That I don't know, that image popped into my head. It's the image I formed in my head. But as you were saying that, like being able to stand up against maybe what everyone else is doing and do something different.
I started thinking of that movie. Um, I don't know if y'all ever saw it. It's called Chicken Little. When,
Yes, I've
when he's
seen
like, the
that.
sky is falling, the sky is falling,
Mhm.
you know. And I was actually thinking of that during the Bereshit breakdown because it was a metal panel from a spaceship that hit him in his head. That
It
kind
was.
of brought
Mm.
it back to memory in terms of you know that something just hit you upside your head, and no one else, like, if I do take you at your word, that means I gotta uproot everything I thought about life. You know, everything I thought that life was, all of my preconceived notions, I gotta start re-examining all of them all over again. That's too much work, and I gotta pull a double shift tomorrow. I don't have time for all of that. You know, I'd rather believe that what I've been doing all this time is right, and you're just crazy because it makes it easier to dismiss you.
Mm.
Which goes back to my one of my favorite movies. I knew that's why you segued that joint in there. The Matrix. When that man, look, when you come up, but it's real. It's like if I present to you other information, and I think this was in this was in Baba Baruti's book of Asafo, where he starts to give different levels of when one comes into information of what happens when one, like, first of all, you're presented with information. That's the first. Going to be disbelief. Like, nah, man, that's not accurate. That's not true, because everything that I was taught, everything that I was told, tells me that this is what life was. That this is what my reality that I have constructed around me is. And then after you get into that disbelief, then it's like, oh, that's really what it is. Then it turns into anger. Now, this is where so many people can get stuck, because now you're angry at the people who told you all of this. You're angry at the world. You're angry at, did I waste all of this time going in this direction when I could have been going in a different direction? And it's not a matter of now getting angry at the world, but more so having a focused rage of, okay, if this is now really where I'm at and really what is going on, then now let me put this rage towards who it should be meant to be put to. So it's like in the Matrix, when my man comes into some information. First, he's in disbelief, and no, this is not true. And he starts swinging at the word like, "Oh no, get me out of here!" And then he throws up, like, "Oh man, this ain't." And then, whoa, like we usually don't wake people up past a certain age. I think it was 8. We don't wake people up past a certain age, because once the mind has taken hold of a certain information, it's hard to let it go. So I was raised in church. It was hard for me to let go that Jesus and God and which God are you talking about? I don't care which God God, God. What you talking about? Like, what's the problem? I don't understand. And the depiction that I have of God and that I've had of God for a long period of time in my life. Now all of a sudden somebody coming talking about Baphomet and Guy Nisi. I'm like, whoa, man, ain't it? If my past, that's like in the movie Major Payne, when that man was like, if they wanted me to know about that, then they would have told me. They didn't tell me anything about that, so I didn't need to know about that. My pastor didn't tell me anything about what you talking about right now, so that means I didn't need to know. All right, but now it's a matter though of it was right there in front of your face this entire time. Like, these names are right there. But it seems like everything is skipped over, because now that's not the flowery stuff that you want to hear or many want to hear. So now I'm going to cater and pander towards my audience, which goes back to another segment that I'm bouncing around, but y'all walk with me. Goes back to another segment, was like Chief started talking about how the church starts to resemble whatever it's in the middle of. So if it's in a society where it starts to preach, we're going to give to one another and we're all, be democratic and we're all going to share, then that's what the message starts to resemble. Whereas opposed to now, if it was in something that was more Republican and you do your own thing or whatever the case may be, the message starts to resemble whatever it is, as opposed to standing on truth, or what they say, standing on business. And then one's standing on business, and I'm about my Father's business, and this is the path. And even though the path might be narrow, this is the path that one has to take. I'm not going to pander to these people just so I can pay the rent. I'm not gonna, who put this up there? I'm not gonna do things in order to try to appease the world, because the world, you see, is
Lost.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's a matter, can I stand on my principles of not just magic fairy dust where I'm just gonna sprinkle over and you know what, you still stuck on the past though. That was way before. You don't need to do all of that. Yeah, it says you shouldn't eat pork and shrimp, but that was, can we have some forward thinking? Can we got some of this black and silver fairy dust where I can just sprinkle on you so you can start to see, look, they're dreaming of the future and you so much stuck on this. Look where it got you. Look where you don't even look happy with your life. Like, let them be happy and let them do whatever it is that they want to do. Even though once they commit to certain things that you say will bring them happiness, they're going to have to now play out the consequences of these decisions when they get older, not knowing that somebody should have told me that. Whatever. I'm not going in that direction, but I mean, it just becomes a very dangerous game that one plays when one doesn't have knowledge of self and one is only working or operating, like that shirt said, off the New World Order. And the New World Order is how it's not a vision that you have for yourself. It's a vision that somebody had given to you. I'm working backwards. So she's already down here, and then an hour earlier, let me show you what it looked like. So you think that you are already there at the destination, or you helping to push this forward, the destination, but then it's something that was the seed that was implanted into you. And as soon as somebody tries to pull that seed out and say, hold on, man, let me show you how this was implanted into your psyche, then that's when you start fighting. That's when you start throwing up. That's when this can't be true. Nah, this is all a conspiracy. Nah, man, this is not what my pastor told me. This ain't what so-and-so told me. And it becomes a fight. And then or one starts to deflect and defend, right? Or you're attacking you trying to assassinate my character. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what's over your head. Nah, man, it ain't over my. I know you talking directly to me, Chief. I know you commenting on what I did, Chief. They're like, no, you are not that important. I'm telling you, this is these are the patterns. Because this is what happens when people start to talk about history repeating itself, which was that today or yesterday? I don't remember. But it was history doesn't repeat itself. It's the patterns that one starts to watch that you can start to see, like, oh, okay, here's a pattern, here's a pattern. So now if I can see the pattern, then I'm going to show you what is over top of your head that you're going to start to resemble and reflect these patterns. But it's not a personal attack on you. You just got to come out and see, you know what, this is something that was implanted in me that now I'm not making my own decisions. And if I'm not making my own decisions, who the heck is making these decisions? What is the name of the God that I'm serving? Why are there so many different gods? Why? Oh, okay. Once I start to slow it down and start to see certain aspects and different things that are going on, then it'll tell me, you know what? Let me pull back. I maybe need to pull back, and we start to see Neo wasn't talking that much in the movie. Neo was just making sure that he was soaking it all in. Okay, you learn to. Like you said, I think you said it the other day. I know how to fight. Show me. But again, there's that learning period where I'm not going through all of that. I'm going to actually now just learn what it is that I need to learn and study and submit to whatever it is I need to submit to at that particular time. And that's what I think is hard for people is to submit. I'm going all over, but y'all, whatever.
Walking with you.
Yeah.
I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of things. Because one, when she's blowing that fairy dust or whatever, I realized like all these children are sleeping. Um, but
Mhm.
the other thing was it was a flashback that we were watching. Like you would think you're watching this thing in real time and you could catch someone red-handed, but they're like, our work is done. And we're just showing you what we did. Like this is what we've done already. You know,
Right.
you can flash forward to me being locked up all you want, but the damage is already done. And then I started thinking about in Genesis where the ruach was blown into humans, and it's like this was wind. She was blowing earth onto all these children. She's trying to solidify them and make sure that nah, this is what you are made of now. You're not made of spirit. You're made of earth. So whatever happens to your body, that's what you are. You know,
Mhm.
those things were popping up in my mind as well. But you wasn't all over the place. We walked with you.
Hey, you
Yeah.
just made me think another thing too. Is when you talking about that you made of earth. Is the difference? Was this yesterday? Or is that? See, I can't.
That was yesterday.
It was
I remember that
created
one.
and made. Was that?
Right.
That was last Sabbath.
That was last
La-
shadow. Chief was talking about the natives and the people who were from inside the earth and the people who were made from the dust of the earth. He's making discussing the difference between the two of them, and they were like, oh well, why do these people are so naive and they just giving away land because they don't consider themselves to be owners of the land. They're from in the earth, not on top of the earth.
And how many people now consider themselves to be owners of their body? So now what you just saying, I was thinking of something else, but now I just popped something else in my head.
I've been trying to write my points down one by one. I'm like,
This is Sabbath.
Uh-oh.
uh
Your Wi-Fi is terrible. I swear you got to be. Hey, but yeah, it started making me think when you just was talking of of just created and made and people who are made from this of this world and are from this world, and then people who know that I'm just passing through. Like I'm passing through. Or what people like to say is it a human body having a spiritual experience? I'm just
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Someone,
so.
someone said you're not a human having a spiritual experience. You're a soul having a human experience or something like that.
yeah, and people like to recite these things, right? But then now when we start to you start to have conversations, then it's the ego jumps in and says, "Hold on, man, I'm not going to. I hear what you're saying, I do, but I'm going to protect us. I'm gonna make sure that we're good. I'm gonna make sure. So even oh man, it makes you think of that reason. There's a chat, wasn't it? When people don't like their wings adjusted to be broke to a sin, right? I'm not going. What's that? I don't. But it's like a matter of one getting their wings cracked and adjusted in order to now go to a different level. But I don't want you to touch. No, don't touch that spot. That hurts. This is my pain. You don't understand. This is my trauma. This is and this is now words or even if you think of if you have a thought where you feel like you want to kill somebody, or if you feel like you want to do something, now all of a sudden these are intrusive thoughts that you shouldn't think. You shouldn't think of any of these things. Like somebody is telling you in designing your psychology of telling you what is a good quote unquote thought and what is a bad quote unquote thought. So now when somebody tells you, I'm going to kill your ego, I'm going to kill parts of your character that are no longer keeping you, no longer serving you at this. Yeah, you might have adopted this certain aspect of yourself because in a certain environment you needed to see. Did y'all check out the what? I don't know what that word is. Forge?
I was
Free
waiting for
range.
somebody else to read it because I was like,
I guess the short answer is no.
Don't.
I don't-
Everybody did.
Man, that must be in the Apocrypha. That's what that is. All right, so yeah, I don't know where I got that word from. Yeah. So I'm like, one is doesn't want to let go of certain aspects of themselves because maybe I needed to be hard in a certain environment in order to get. So maybe I was locked up at a certain time in my life, and there were certain aspects or certain habits that I needed to adopt. in order to make it through this particular environment. Or maybe I was in a family that was abusive, or, you know, and I'm using these words because they can go in any different direction. But it's a matter of, you know, so I needed to take or adopt certain habits in order to now get me through whatever it is that I need to get through. But then now it's like, okay, in order for one to ascend, how does one start to now say, you know what, these are things that are weighing me down, that are actually not letting me get to where I need to go to. And then that's when, but that seed has already been implanted in you, or somebody else, I've already gotten you. So that's why it's like, you're talking to adults maybe who are hooked on Jordans or hooked on certain things. And it's like, I don't want you anymore, because I already know what you're going to do. I already know about as far as you're going to go. Come online. That's that old thing of, I already know, if you don't want to eat meat anymore, you go to aisle 7 and now you get the other box. You're good to go. I'm just going to get these children though. I want to make sure that I got them, so that therefore the cycle keeps continuing. And it's not until one can start to say, you know what, this is me just being hyper defensive. This is me trying to have my what you call it your own agenda, but it's not your own agenda. It's the agenda that was already laid in front of you, that one can start to say, you know what, in order for me to start to heal, which takes me to the segment self-healing. Yo, and that's another part. That was another part in self-healing when you talk about a house. I meant to say that the other day when we was watching ended up watching the movie, because he said house, and his study of our new is very good. But I'm going to raise him another one. And self-healing, it also talks about the reference of a house and the aspects of our emotions that we hold on to, that we used as the arsenal. It was an adapter that was in the house, but it's like, I don't even know what this adapter goes to, but because I don't want to throw it out, because I may need it. So these are certain aspects of ourselves, of our emotions, that now it's like we hold on to, that it's like, you know, I'm not going to get rid of my defensiveness. I'm not going to get rid of this because I may need it, because somebody may come and challenge me at some particular time or some junction in my life. So now I'm going to start to, another thing, hoarding. And then hoarding starts to tell you, right? The hoarding starts to tell you about the traumas that we insulate ourselves from. So now we're holding on to certain things, because now there's certain traumas that we don't want to deal with. So we feel like we're going to insulate ourselves from all of these different things that may happen. So we hold on to them. So we're holding on to these emotions. We hold on to, which are byproducts of our thought, that we hold on to, that are no longer serving us. And as soon as somebody comes and starts to challenge those things, or somebody tells you, you know what, you're looking at this the wrong way, it's like, I don't want to try to look at it a different way. I'm just going to hold on to it, because I'm holding on to that trauma that I don't want to release. And I'm going to put
Okay.
Follow that. Yeah. It's a lot of fire.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. Like I wanted to say earlier, I wonder like if that's just a devil, like someone who likes to go back and forth and be saying like, no, I don't, want to do this. I don't want to let this go. Like that wants to just argue, and I can see why she like cuts certain conversations short, because like you can't spend a lot of time just going back and forth with somebody, or just a lot of people, you know. Ron 9 says I'm not going to attempt to try to pronounce that word. Um, okay,
Phrygian.
Phrygian. Okay, the Phrygian
I
cap
was
or
trying
Liberty
in
cap.
my head for the longest. I think that's it. I think that's Phrygian cap.
We're on the same boat. The Phrygian cap or Liberty cap is a soft, conical cap with the apex bent over, associated in antiquity with several peoples in Eastern Europe, Anatolia, and Asia, also worn by Smurfs. I will that I pronounce those words correctly, but I don't know what is being said there.
the apex is bent over. Does that mean, is that pointing to like a capstone?
The
But
apex is the top and it's bent over, just like how the Smurfs wear it, and the top is like bent over.
would that be signifying, like from what you said earlier, one is from the world? Because it's not a capstone that would be pointing up, but it would just be ultimately pointing them back down.
Mm-hmm.
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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I'm
I don't
asking. I don't know.
I even try to reach with that one. I'll look it up. I will look it up after the segment. I'm
Yeah,
not doing it.
Thoughts on this one?
yeah. I looked at the picture, but I have no idea like what it represent or anything like that. So,
I've seen it being associated with different cults in antiquity that had a lot to do with like mushroom. I think they're called like mushroom cults. I didn't dig any deeper into that. Chief had said last night that it was also associated with Dionysus,
hmm
and I was thinking in terms of there's a mushroom that Vikings were known to consume that would send them into like a berserker state, and it would take them when they go to war. You just gotta stand a little ways off from them because they won't be able to determine friend from foe. But that's like the frenzy aspect of it. The show producers put the dang dong image on the screen.
it's true.
I don't actually know how to do that one.
Yeah, not live.
Yeah.
Live in effect. Um,
So, like, and that also had me thinking about the different, these different gods that now reproduce these different people that are on the planet. And I'm like, now it's just making me think of, do all of these gods get to reproduce? Or is it only a select few that would only have the opportunity to get to have that certain experience? Or does it matter? Because I would imagine, just like people, some people are selective in who they would choose to be their mate, right? And some people are like, I'm not. This person is not going to have access to me in this particular way. Does all of these gods get to have access to now start to reproduce all of these different symbols and things that one would see on a day-to-day basis?
I don't know. I don't know how the hierarchy goes in terms of who gets to have women, who doesn't.
So then, if a god has children, are all of these children would be different gods, or it would just be a matter of these children go reproduce with somebody else? Is then what creates the other god?
Are you saying when gods have children, are they? See, could you ask it again?
So if you have a litter of four,
Little. Yo, a little four. Okay, I'm walking with you.
they will all be from the house of Menelek.
Right.
If they go out and reproduce with somebody, I guess from a different house, that would create a new God, quote unquote. That's what I'm trying to simplify this. And if it ain't making sense, then it ain't making sense.
I would think if I was a god, I had a little litter of four. And those four went on to reproduce with other gods. I don't know. I don't know. Because I'm trying to do the math. And I know that when it comes to royalty, if one royal deals with another royal on equal standing, then they have a strong bloodline. But if someone deals with someone of lesser standing, then it would be considered like a weakening of the bloodline if the other person has no royal blood themselves. I'm just thinking about how people used to arrange marriages. Well,
Now
where
you
are we
got
going
me
with this?
so because now I'm thinking like y'all, you watch House of Dragons?
Yeah, the first season.
So well, in the second season, right? They in a war, but in the war they don't got nobody to ride the dragons. And then the dragons, then they start looking for bastard children of, because these people are royal, but then you got bastard children that can now ride the dragon because the dragon is supposed to only take two
The Targaryen.
certain, yeah, the blood, as long as you got the blood type. So is that how gods, is that how these other gods, which these gods I'm assuming want to create their own symbols in order to stay alive and maintain their own bloodline, or is that how they're created?
I'm not sure. I can't say.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah, it's, I'm like, all of these, they got, where they coming from? Where they coming from? And
I
I'm
mean, we
assuming new ones
got
get
different
made all.
accounts too.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying in response to your question, where they coming from? Like everyone seems to have their own account of when these Elohim in their culture, how they ascended or when they, I mean, how they descended or when they descended. Like you have the Book of the Watchers where you have Semyaza and all the other Elohim or the Malakim that he was dealing with, who were in his host, like they were in his regiment, and he was like, "Listen, I've been looking down at these human females, and they looking mighty tasty. You know, you got the sundresses on, it's summer. You know, they frolicking. They ain't got no bras. They don't know nothing about none of that. So I'm gonna go down here and get me a little piece of that. Now, if y'all want to come, just y'all know I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm ready for the consequences, and there will be consequences. So if y'all trying to come and ride with me, let's go." And they descended upon the mountain, and they started dealing with these sisters, right? These girls. And they started having children with them. They started teaching them all the sciences that they were over, whether it's enchantment or weapons or music or whatever have you. And they started having their children. You know what I mean? That was one that was one story. I'm sure everyone has their story, just like everyone has their own flood account. And everyone swears that only a certain amount of people got on their boat. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
if Indians got their flood story and they say only a certain amount of people got on the boat, Vikings got their flood story, Hebrews got their flood story, everybody got a flood story. And everyone has a story of a flood. And there's historical evidence of a flood happening. But everybody seems to think that our people was the only people who got on the boat.
Mm.
Right? So that's how I'm thinking about it. Like how everyone's Elohim descended may not be the same based on their account of it.
Does the big head scientist come into this any?
Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know how they fit. I don't know how they fit. But Safta Hava had a question. She said, shouldn't each Yah offspring be a part of their bloodline?
See, but even when you say Yah, these are, who knows the name of these gods,
Yes,
right?
I get confused on like what does it say Elohim, uh, the Most High Yah, like yeah, like so that is true.
So like, how were these different ones created? It had to. I'm assuming it had to have one going in a direction of mating with somebody they shouldn't have, and then creating a new one. I'm assuming.
Mm, I don't know
I could be
about that.
totally making. I don't know. I'm just freestyling, but I'm like, I'm trying to look at it like. But then this is how certain ones will create these numbers in order to feed. Because I'm assuming if one doesn't get fed, then it doesn't have any like like in Coco. I don't know if y'all ever watched that movie. And you know, like when they y'all ain't never seen Coco?
I've been meaning to
No.
watch. I know
Oh,
which one you mean though. It's the Mexican movie, right? Or Spanish movie.
yes, right. And they go over to the other side, but then if the family members don't remember them, then they start dying. So if they don't have a picture up, or if they're not speaking of their name, or if they're not doing anything, then they just, you know, they cease to exist. Remember me. That's the whole remember. Oh my gosh, y'all gotta watch that. It's a really good movie. And
Coco
so I'm
Yafe asked
assuming
if it was from Disney.
Is it
it was
Coco?
Pixar. I think it is a Pixar. Is it Pixar Disney?
Nah, they beefing.
Um, oh, I thought they were the same.
Like
I
started
don't
just
think
been
it was.
beefing.
Yeah, but I'm only using that as a reference to say if one doesn't reference or have these certain numbers that make certain sacrifices to this deity, then this deity is no longer in existence.
So like there's a certain amount of, I don't know.
You could consider Clash of the Titan Peace if you
See,
Peace,
What's it about?
peace.
you could consider Clash of the Titans where they were sustained by human prayers on Mount Olympus, and Hades' whole plan to take over was, well, the gods are sustained by human prayers, but I'm going to cause all this chaos, and I feed on their fear. So I'm going to cause all this chaos and continuously bring all this chaos so that they got to pray to me now. Whether they know it or not, they're sending all the spirit to me, and that's going to make me the strongest one on Mount Olympus.
Which creates a new god.
Or it just feeds one of the ones who wasn't getting fed.
So
But
then it
these
never
are
goes
on
away.
straps.
It never will go away. It would just go into a holding period until somebody can remember it again.
That's the depiction they gave of him because he was in Hades. Like he looked like he was down bad. Like he couldn't get off the chair. He wasn't eating on time. But he started getting real stronger real quick.
Hmm.
So I wanted to look into that. I know you were talking about like how something about like how the gods come forward, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me the question again if you don't mind?
So like these deities that are being created, like these new ones, or all these different ones that are in existence. I'm like, how does they come into existence? Is that from one going out and then procreating with, I guess, some different line or different group of people? Then all of a sudden, a new god emerges.
Um, there's multiple ways. One, if you are not Santa Claus is a god. If we get together and we put our focus on a particular reality long enough, we can materialize that reality. Like everybody knows, like as a person thinketh, so they are. Your body will follow where your mind goes. So what if I can get 2 million minds going in the same direction? Then I can manifest something that was not there. So some gods come forth as a result of just our collective focus towards a certain thing. We're told, think about how we're told celebrities can be gods. Think about how like what we're told about celebrities. Like, for instance, if you're out somewhere and you see a celebrity, now maybe not you or I, because I'm in New York, you're in California, we see celebrities all the time. All right. But person who may not come in contact with celebrities very often, they'll be like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" Like be the first thing they say, because they don't imagine that I am a celebrity because of my job. I'm not a celebrity because I have special blood and I have special powers. Like people really think celebrities are different than them. They don't realize like that's just I have a job, I'm a carpenter, you're an actor. It's just a job, right? So, but if you put your collective focus and interest towards that person long enough, then they become a god. You can turn them into a god. So that's one way, or you can manifest a God where there was no God. I mean, yes, we know that Yahweh Shai or Yeshua was his name. Translated English would have been Joshua. Yes, we got all of that. But Jesus is also a God because you got enough people over hundreds of years saying Jesus, 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 pouring all of their energy into Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Now you created something, even if that wasn't the energy before, right? So that's one way. But another way too is through cloning. Because you got to remember in Genesis, what was it, 3:16, I think? When the Elohim are like, yo, now you will bring forth children your childbirth, you bring forth children in pain. Well, then how was I bringing forth children before? Well, there was no pain. Why? Because we were cloning. So if we were giving you the option and the ability to clone, and now you're going to have sex to have children, then it would stand the reason that the Elohim or the gods, quote unquote, were using cloning for reproduction. So new gods would come forth by the process of cloning. Another thing, I would also say that aside from those methods of creation, some of the new gods are the old gods. But if they show up and say, "I am Vishnu," it's like, what? I don't even speak that language, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. So it's like they show up in a way where they speak to the language of where we're at now, but also they speak to the reality of where we're at now. We can do studies around temple prostitutes. That was a thing back in the days where, men and women would commit themselves to Aphrodite. Some would commit themselves to Athena. Then you had others who were like the oracles of Delphi. They were communicating with other entities, right? We don't have that today, but we do have temple prostitutes. We do have a porn industry. We do have OnlyFans, where people who would normally not be a part of prostitution for a time, like temple prostitutes, they were usually just regular people. Could be your girlfriend, could be your wife, where they would commit themselves to that god at 1 year of service to that temple, where they would, males and females, they would be prostitutes for that temple for 1 year. That was a part of their service, regardless of what their situation was. You got people who start only fan pages. Like, I lost my job. I just need to do this for a little while, just pay these bills and get back to where I need to be. Right. So if there was a god that resided over temple prostitutes in that time, then it would beg the reason, and there must be a god today that resides over OnlyFans and strip clubs and P Valley and all the other places where people go. Now we know Jezebel did what? Jezebel leads my people into sexual immorality. Right? Now, would she be called Jezebel today? And would her ministers what would they be called today? But you oftentimes hear me cite Cardi B, Sexy Red, Sukiyana. Then we could go Pinky. We could go Beauty Dior. I don't know. Just whatever. Cherokee, the ass, Roxy Reynolds. These are all porn people. Like, y'all don't know. Y'all trying to put the confused look on, but y'all know who I'm talking about.
Never heard of them.
Right? I forgot about her. Yeah, I miss her. What she been up to? She in the church now. Oh man, she gave her life to God. Oh, but so it's like you got all these different. Was it Ice Spice? It's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's on stage shaking their stinking butt up and down. And then you got these fools like, that's an African thing. Y'all think it's just twerking, but shut up. Shut the F up with that. So these are ministers of Jezebel. That's all. But you don't call them Jezebel. So you got to trace back. Well, where did this stuff come from? Like, how did it? Well, we had Millie Jackson back in the days with her nasty songs. We had Lil' Kim. We have Foxy Brown, we have Foxy Brown on television. You got to go like, okay, what was on TV? Like, who opened the way for some of these things? Those are the reincarnations of those archetypes. You see, what young rapper today who's taken off her clothes is not going to pay homage to Lil' Kim? Even if they don't even listen to Lil' Kim's music, they have to pay homage because it's just like a political thing you have to do. It's just like nowadays, when you ask rappers, yo, who's your top 5 rapper? They're always going to say Eminem. They always throw him in the top of Rakim, Nas, J. Cole, Eminem. Because you have to say Eminem. Because like what they did with Elvis Presley, where he became the king of rock and roll, They have made Eminem the king of rap. So now what will he be 200 years from now? The god of rap. You see? So
Mm-hmm.
gods can be created in that same way. When we look back, a lot of stuff we be looking back on now, we look back with so much mysticism and reverence, but it ain't really that big a deal. It'd be some regular stuff. Like, when they first found the Enuma Elish, a lot of stuff they found in those old Sumerian tablets was like receipts and shopping lists. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, but you like, oh, they found these sacred objects. No, it's just like somebody's shopping list. And then they found little bits and pieces of like these ancient stories on cracked tablets. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, and we got also a creation story over there. But, we got money's like Christmas shopping lists, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, a lot of times these gods, quote unquote, they're created in multiple ways based on, that's why you have different kinds of gods. You have different kinds of Elohim because a lot of it is perception. Like thou shalt have no gods before me. So if I should have no gods before you, it's like I I have aunts and uncles. I have one father, one mother, right? My aunts and uncles, I call them all by their first name, but I put aunt and uncle in front of it. But I would never dare do that with my parents because I recognize my aunt, my uncle, they're all around that level. Like they might even be older than my parents and have more clout in the family. But I personally will not put any other God before my gods.
Mm-hmm.
So I know all the other gods' names, but I don't know my God's name. I know my God's title, father, mother. But the other ones, because they don't come before my gods, I know their name. Oh, that's just Uncle Blue or, Aunt Vicky or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the gods are formed primarily by perception. They reproduce by way of cloning, by way of emulation. You know, they live a bit longer, so they're able to go through the times and say, well, this is who I am now. Just like we got techno music. Techno music used to be house music. It was all anything that was doom, doom, doom. It was all house music. Then it became techno and rave and D&B, drum and bass music. It's house music. But we got to take it out your hands. At one point, it was blues and field hollering. Then it was rock and roll and metal and grunge. It's blues. You see.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like the birthing of new gods by way of we just gonna change their names and represent them to a new place, a new audience.
Is it the same though? It's the same Jezebel though. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's just a
You know
different
it's the same
name.
Jezebel because it's the same tactics. That's why we can read scripture and be like, man, that's so true. How is it so true and it's so old? Like you and Zach, you've been through this, as a man. Maybe you sisters have too. You ever had that sister that's just spicy to the end? She just never, you know what I'm saying? To the very, you could catch her cheating. There'd be videos on social media about the sister gets caught cheating. Well, you got a little penis, like you know what I'm saying? Well, Jezebel, what does she do when they came to kill her? When they coming down the road, she's putting makeup on. Then she comes to the window like, what's up, King Killer? You know what I'm saying? She's still talking spicy. They just threw her out the window. It was like, because she wasn't gonna walk. They would have been Jezebel, walk down here. What? Who are you to tell me to walk? Man, just throw her out the window because we not gonna do this today.
Yeah.
It's hot out here. I gotta go. Just throw her out the window. And that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we can relate to that. It's like, yeah, I know sisters like that. To the very end, always got something slick to say. to the point that don't even try to make peace with them because there ain't no peace in them. Jezebel. That's Jezebel.
But that Jezebel gets a new name, which therefore creates a new quote unquote God. However, it's just the spirit using this person. So in essence, it is the old God.
You know why it's a new God? It's a new God when you don't study.
Hmm.
Okay.
When you know better, I see you. I see who you are.
Mm.
It makes me think of like when I guess the older people used to say, "It's nothing new under the sun."
Right.
Everything.
Exactly. These are the same exact, but their job is to keep masking and hiding. They be jumping from religion to religion.
So is that because ultimately they're trying to keep that spirit alive on the planet? So like how we're supposed to keep the spirit of the Most High alive on the planet, they're essentially seeking to keep that spirit alive.
Yeah, I mean, you have certain deities in antiquity who were gods of agriculture. Do you care anything about agriculture? When's the last time you prayed for a good harvest or for the grains to grow? Let the wheat come forth. We don't care. We don't care. So that God's sitting there like, damn, man. Ain't nobody checking for, because now we got ways that we can manipulate the weather patterns. Notice that it rained the first couple of days of the Paris Olympics. That was on they made it rain, you know. So it's like we not even sitting here like I pray to the storm god that rain will fall. We just make the rain come so we can grow this GMO crap. So who are you praying to for that? So now you're not praying to gods of grain and to the god of corn and to the god of soft earth. You don't care. So now that God has to become something else to represent something else in order to keep being fed, in order to stay alive. So how can either way I need to get fed? I'm down here, I'm in the soil, I need some food. What can I do? Well, murder is a way. Blood, I can get fed that way. I might now figure out a way to shift over to the butcher industry. All these chickens getting killed and cows getting killed and all of that. I can be fed from that. So they only become new gods because we don't realize that you have to. That's why it's important to understand primordial energies. Because when you understand the primordials, then you'll know, like, no, that's just water. That's just this coming. That's just air coming forth. That's all it is. It's nothing special. That's one of the challenges. Like when people, especially get into or they think they're getting into traditional African religions, and people start using new language, and they think like, they're saying these words. That's what I say. Like even in Europe, but sometimes I hear people say things, and it's like you really think you're saying something spiritual. But if you speak to a person who speaks the language, it's like you didn't say anything. Like if you say in English, if we're like saying, God, I come before you. Like we just said, all right, and God, I
What's
come
up?
before you. Right, what's up? What you want? You know what I'm saying? But if you say it in a another language, Moni re mi, you know how that joint sound? He like he talking that ish right there. I told you that brother smart. He know a bunch of different languages. Moni Mary. And then you started hit the drums. All I said is I present me. That's all I just said.
That
I
God
was
might still show up like, "What's up?" in English.
right.
I know what language you speak.
See what I'm saying? So, but if you live in that country, you can make money like that because why? I can sell new gods to you, which is what they do. They come over here and sell us new gods, but they're not really new gods. They're the same gods we already had. But they just repackage them with another language, different color beads or whatever, and it's the same freaking God. So, like, if you look like grasping with the divine power, look in the back of the book. I write this God can be related to this one, to that one, to that one, to that one. I even show like 50 Cent, Suge Knight, Ogun, Hercules. Like I'm gonna show you how they incarnate and how they keep being fed. Some of us are children of those streams of cognition, but we don't realize that those gods are also children of those streams of cognition. I don't have to look at Ogun and be like, "Oh, Baba Ogun." I never said, "Oh, Baba." I might have maybe once or twice, and I didn't know. Brother Ogun, you ain't older than me. We not even gonna play it. We came from the same place, iron and fire. That's what we came out of. You see, so I could be worshipped just as quick as you could be worshipped. It's not a new God. Like I think I taught that years ago. Like you want to find the thing that sits behind the law. It's laws that create deities. Laws. So like when you learn scientific laws, you learn like, okay, when this happens, there's that particular reaction. And then people on the ground, they're looking at the reaction and saying, oh, you know, that's a God. That reaction is a God. But when you start to ascend to the higher heavens, even mentally, you'll say, well, what birthed that God? Right? What happens when cool air confronts with warmer air? Hurricanes.
Mhm.
So is the hurricane the God? Is the wind the God? Or is the thing that's causing the wind to shift and move around? Is that the God? But I already know it ain't the hurricane. I figured that one out. It ain't that, but I've been praying to the hurricane, but the hurricane ain't actually God. It's a reaction from the movement of the God. So sometimes new gods come forth because we just don't know how stuff works.
Mhm. And it would also be a fear of how the thing works. Like, what created the hurricane? You don't ask questions of the gods. You don't question the who are you to question the gods?
Right. It's disrespectful. Right.
Throw them in the volcano.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need some new volcano food. You know, yeah, that's how it happens, man. It's like because you're not approaching it as a deity. But the scripture said, "Don't you know when you were in the world, ye were as gods? So you are God's children of the Most High. So if you're God, children of the Most High, what the hell you doing praying to a God? That don't make no damn sense. Even Yahweh Shai didn't say God; he said Father.
Mm.
It's a family thing.
Mhm.
Gods are for that's for little people.
All right. So that would go back to the Transformers thing too, because when they came down, like they took on forms that people would understand
Right,
first. Like they
right.
weren't walking around as humanoids. They took on the card form to disguise themselves, and they're like, "All right, what's the best time to show this dude what I am?"
So, but however, think about that for a second too, because one of the things about the Transformer mythology is they take on the form of the apex of the planet. So they're like,
Oh, like
yeah,
with the
they're like,
dinosaurs.
remember with the dinosaurs, like we're gonna be the apex predators of the planet. So it's like, yeah, we're taking on a form that you know, but it's still something that's more powerful than you.
Mhm.
You know, like let's not get it twisted. We still are from outer space. You know,
Okay.
Well, we do have some images to show y'all.
about
So,
time, man.
all right. So I'm gonna show the first one.
Okay, so it's pronounced. I mean, freaking is funny, but it's pronounced Frisia. So he's like freaking.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a freaking cat.
That's a freaking freaking cat.
Right.
Oh,
So
God, wait a minute. Let me go upstairs and get my freaking cat.
yeah, freaking cat. So we can get into it, girl. So you see, that's Papa Smurf, obviously, but he's blue. He's Dionysus.
Mhm.
You know, and
Mm,
this is a part of the Mithra cults as well. I didn't really speak about that too much today. The Mithra cults. But Papa Smurf and the Smurfs are a very deep subject. And again, it connects to the mushrooms. They lived inside of mushrooms, if you remember.
mm,
That's why I showed that, or I provided that first picture rather. I didn't show it. All right, we got. I gave y'all some more pictures. What's going on? There we go. So there's the logos for the or the mascots rather for the Olympics, and it's they're supposed to be that hat.
Um,
Mm.
Who made?
Hmm.
So it is. It does resemble a capstone in a sense.
Yeah,
why is one like whether there's oh, but that's a head.
Mhm. Uh-oh.
Oh, y'all all right?
throwing
Yes.
computers across the room. They excited. They learning.
So
I thought.
those are
Yeah. Okay. I thought this was a. It was a German. This was a German cartoon, right?
The Smurfs. Yeah, I believe so.
Um, I thought this was. The whole thing was about them in Israel.
It
How
was. It was also. Remember, there's the exoteric and then there's the esoteric. There's always both happening at the same time. So the Smurfs are also about socialism. But when you start to get into it and really understand it, you'll understand that sometimes the esoteric agenda is to bring about an exoteric result. Like we want to have a holy war. Why? To give blood to our gods and also to depopulate society. Because one of the biggest issues they've always had is population control. So that would be the exoteric agenda. We gotta get less people on the planet. But the esoteric agenda is like, how are we gonna do it? We're gonna use occultism, metaphysics, so forth and so forth to instigate wars. You know,
and they have to be done on certain numbers in order for it to be completed.
it's a ritual. So it's most auspicious. You want to step back and look at the big picture, right? Um, like I know we have this in martial arts. I know y'all probably had it in football and stuff. Like you move on, it's tiny. It's tiny. You move on certain numbers. Even your footwork is certain. It's like it's almost numbered. Or like when we throw combinations, those combinations are numbered. Jab, jab, cross. Jab, jab, cross, uppercut. Step left, step in. It's numbers. So it's like if we say, okay, well, we do this particular thing July 31st. Well, what's happening with the planets around that time? Because that has an influence. What's happening with the moon at a certain time? And then it's understood. Again, it goes back to the Matrix. The Matrix was a rainstorm. The movie starts with it raining code. So once you realize that you're living inside of code, then the numbers will make sense because you'd be like, well, of course you have to use certain numbers because it's a code. Everything that we're going to do is going to be encoded. If you got a code on your door to get into your house or your apartment, I got to hit that same code to get in and out. So if I want to affect a certain agenda, I have to hit the code. Back in the days, it'd be like, yeah, cuz we're going to do a 187 on the marks. A 187. You know what I'm saying? A fool set tripping. We about to pull a 187. So it's like, oh, I know what that is. I ain't even from there and I know what that is. I ain't messing with that. But just like here, we know like if you ever get into a situation with cops and you hear them calling it in and you hear them say 7:30, you better try to get out of there. 7:30 means mentally disturbed. And they call that's a code. They'll do that sometimes to do something to you. Oh, we have a black male here, such and such, 7:30. They about to do something to you. They're trying to say you're crazy. Right? So that's a code to do what? I feel like killing some ninjas. I'm gonna call on the 7:30. Say that he was here wilding out, going crazy. I put him down. So that's a code to affect a certain agenda. You know.
And the numbers would be like if I was trying to call 347-945-7680, right? And I wanted to call in.
You got interesting memory.
I could get a certain aspect, but if I change one number, then I'm not going to get that particular deity that I'm quote unquote calling on.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So because you start to realize that numbers, it's a code that unlocks or locks. Everything is a number. So it's like if we say a chant, right? If we say a chant, it will invoke a certain reality. But that chant may have a number associated to it. So just like I said before, like 666, which they say is the number of man, the mark of the beast, 666 is also SSS. So if we chant SSS, we're chanting 666. So now what reality opens up? Does 666 open up? The same exact reality that SSS or ZZZ, which is the same letter, that ZZZ or SSS, they open up the same reality. So you can use, you have codes around you, but you can also mask your codes. Like I said, I gave you the numbers earlier for collapse. It's just that we don't imagine that the language that we use is coded. Everything you say is coded. That's why there's patterns of what's said. What the heck does hello mean? You see what I'm saying?
Is it me you're looking for?
Right, exactly. Lionel Richie. Are you invoking the god of Lionel Richie? You know what I'm saying? The horse head deity. But yes. I'll just mess with. I like Lionel. I ain't gonna be but he's dope. He's dope. Especially after he cut off that Jerry cut. But the thing about it, so it's like you looking at it and you're saying, yeah, we have a certain imprint of things that we say. We don't even know what it means, but it was important that we said it. Like I said the same thing with the N-word. There were so many other terms that were used to describe us. Why was that the one that survived? Mm-hmm. We don't be going around each other like, yo, my coon, what's up? Nah, my butt. Right. We don't say that, yeah, bed winch. You know what I'm saying? That's my winch right there. We got my shine. All my shines is out here. We don't use that term, but we use that one term because it's coded.
And the code creates religions, which people want to keep. This is exactly how you get back to it. So I'm thinking like the numbers like the 187, 182, 911, like those numbers are going to get you in contact with this particular deity that I say that I want contact with.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no, but because the number itself is an activator. Remember, the language of the gods is mathematics. Mm-hmm. That's always been taught throughout the age. So if I speak mathematics, then I can do what the gods do, because the gods created the world through language. Bereshit, let there be. Da, 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 da. That's all language. So if I learn to speak the way they speak, and I might say, well, I can't speak the way they speak because I don't speak that ancient language. I don't speak the Galatian language, because really Galatian is really a language which is akin to Arabic, but I don't speak that ancient language. Well, that language still broke down to mathematics. So if you can speak numbers, you can transcend all of that. It's like, you think about it. You went to Mexico, you was dancing up a storm. You don't speak Spanish. But you speak numbers, you speak rhythm. You know, okay, like, okay, this is where I put my foot down. I know I can hear the little. You know what I'm saying? You can hear the one beat. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I know it.
It's
You knew
keep
it. Put
shaking
that
them up.
one down.
Every 5 seconds you say cervezas and you good.
Right, exactly. So basically, how many, one, dos, the trick, like, numbers. You know what I'm saying? So think about how many situations in life that we can get. If we don't know the language of a place, how much we'll use numbers to do what we need to do. I speak multiple languages. One of the things that I never hardly ever really learned in each language, and people from those countries laugh at me, but I don't care. I never learned the number system. Because I'm like, that's just an extra thing. I don't feel like learning no numbers, and it's boring. Like I learn stuff. I learn words and phrases that are close to what I'm interested in doing. So, and I always say I don't need to learn the numbers. If I hold up my hands, you know what I'm saying. I know you do. You know what I'm saying? Even if I say like, oh, I need to go to the address is 2,204. You know what I'm saying? You know what I just. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So mathematics is the language of the gods. And so there are people who learn to use mathematics to do what gods do. So when you're using certain phrases, certain numbers in front of you, you want to learn what in antiquity and in history did those numbers represent? Because again, what do I want? Pattern recognition. That's what I'm looking for, pattern recognition. Like here, we do everything in threes. So everything is in threes. Even when we say a joke, if you're writing a paper for school, you know how you're describing something. You never just say two things. You always say this, and this. That's the imprint that's on you. The imprint, it's really a trap. So when you talk about God, you don't feel right until you make God threes. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Okay, feel better. You
And
know,
child.
man, woman, child, body, mind, spirit. Because we live in the world of the trap of the three. We're the third planet from the sun. Three is our powerful number. The triangle or the tripod is the strongest structure that all of these different things, right? So it's the trap of the three. But we understand, okay, well, then the three must be part of the language of the gods. What do they use the three for? And then you learn, okay, well, I'm going to use the three that way. I'm going to use this number sequence that way. And you try it out. Oh, that joint worked. Because now you're speaking to what actually redefines and reshapes nature.
Yeah, thank you for
Wouldn't that
sharing
be a
that.
way to use it in a sense that like the gods never thought to use it that way before because they were never human?
The gods never thought because they were never human.
Yeah, they never thought to use it in a way that a human would use it because they weren't human. Like I'm remembering Death Note, right? The anime, and the character who had the Death Note, like he was using it to plan people's deaths like days and weeks in advance. And the Shinigami Ryu, the god of death, who gave him the book, he was like, "What's with you like doing all these intricate plans and all of this? Like you plan people's death weeks in advance. Like we don't use these books this way. I never seen a death book used this way, Death Note used this way, because we so used to being apart from humans and we don't really care about them or what time they die. If it's their time to do, it's their time to go. So we used to just kill them on that time."
But you know what? Sometimes that is the identification of a god, because a god can take anything and make it great. Like we're doing hip hop. Somebody had a bunch of old records and stuff like that. Didn't give us no electricity in our apartments. We climbed up on the side of the pole, plugged into the pole. Now we having park jams. Couldn't nobody afford no speakers, so we built our own speakers. Now you a freaking electrical engineer. All of a sudden, you dropped out of high school, and now you know how to tap into the city's power like you freaking Batman or something. So you can play Rapper's Delight. But yeah, that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes things that are overlooked Um, that's why you'll have science. A God is always going to be a scientist. A scientist does what? Take very ordinary things and performs the great work, the alchemical work, and makes very ordinary things extraordinary. So a deity may be like, well, we always had this and we didn't do anything with it. You didn't know what to do with it. Maybe you didn't have the creative mind like I might have to take it to the next level. You know, sometimes that may be the identifier, like, oh, that's a God right there. That ain't something normal.
Mm. Oh man. Well, wanna I guess we can end it on that note.
Now Sequoia was gonna say something.
Well, before we close out, I was going to share with the number three. That is a number that I kind of use. Like, I noticed over the years that when certain symbols would come in threes, I pay attention and I know that I'm supposed to, like, pay attention to what's being said. So, like, somebody, like, usually, like, for example, like, one time I kept seeing frogs. Like, I seen a frog in front of my, when I was walking out my door. And then I think I seen a frog on the screen, like kind of floating. I was like, okay, there's another frog. And then I seen another frog in another instance. So in that case, I always stop, be like, okay, what's being said? Because I see this thing three times. So that's like I would say when it comes to numerology, that is something that I've been using for a few years. That number three, as a way to kind of pay attention to what's
What does the
being said.
frog represent?
At the time, I thought it represented like cleansing. That I needed to like either cleanse the home and at the time it was some cleansing that needed to happen. So that was the message that I got from it.
What does it mean now?
Uh, I'm not sure because I haven't seen a frog in a while. So
What does Revelation 16:13 say?
Revelation 16:13. 16:13. It says, "And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet." Hmm. Wow.
So now you see why they always have movies like The Frog Prince, Frog Princess.
Hmm.
It's a ritual.
Wow.
Frogs are unclean. It's a ritual.
Oh wow. Okay. So I was able to get the message at the time because I was not reading the scripture at the time. So
Well,
I
I mean, you got it right. Your house was filthy. That's what it said. Clean up. Take your garbage out. You had dust bunnies underneath your bed.
Oh.
But yeah, there's all kind of traps, and there's numerological traps, and there's also linguistic traps. Like for instance, the English language is the IOA language. Everything we say, every phrase we say, it operates within the vowels IOA, right? So you would never say like hop hip. It doesn't even feel right when you say it. You'd say hip hop. See how it flows better? You could try to say hop hip, and you notice like how it shuts your breath off in a weird way.
Yeah.
So everything goes IOA in the English language. But did any of you know that?
No.
See,
No.
but you speak English, right? So
AEI.
right, you heard the AEIOU, but they didn't tell you the whole thing. It's IOA.
Mm-hmm.
So every formula that you're giving linguistically, every book that you read, the reason why the book succeeds because they use the IOA rhythm pattern because that's what flows properly. But you didn't know that, but you were using the language. So that's the thing. Like it's just like when you watch a movie, you don't realize sometimes like any good movie that succeeds is Osiris story. If it's not the Osiris story, you don't like it.
Mm.
But you might not know the Osiris story. You'd be like, I don't know, but I just like Lion King, Osiris story. I just like Matrix, Osiris story, Batman, Osiris, Lord of the Underworld. It's all Osiris. Conan, Osiris. I get any good movie that Inception. It's all about Somebody was doing great, everything was fine, and something went wrong. Then they have to go on a hero's journey, and they go into a dark place, and then when they come back, they're better off than where they started. That's the Osirian myth, and all movies are based on that same motif, right? So these are all different like forms of traps, if you will. Lord of the Rings is the same thing, but Lord of the Rings is about Saturn, the rings of Saturn. That Lord of the Rings is so deep, in terms of like the Satanism. To be honest with you, it's very deep. But yeah, so I just wanted to say that. I know y'all want to go because y'all hungry, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. But I could tell, I see it on your face. You look hungry. You look hungry. Hair, hair crooked.
Well,
Sneakers dirty. I saw you when you came into the door.
we appreciate y'all jumping in and sharing. I think we all got a lot out of this today's build on symbols. So, all right, Lakoti, Margie, Lakoti, close us on out.
Well, since that seems to be
What's up with
popular,
this?
felt
Are
like maybe
they gonna close it out with the little the picture
Yeah,
song?
man. Warriors.
all right. Well, thank you all for joining
My brother.
us. Thank you, Aki Zach, formerly known as Aki Zach, known now as he, him. We want
Damn.
to him
That's my
downstairs.
pronouns.
Mm.
We want to thank you, Master Menelik, also for joining us, and of course, thank you, Master, for joining us. Catch us again live next strong on the Sabbath following our Master's message. And until then, be well. Peace.
Shalom.